Let me start with something honest. Most men aren't actually afraid of intimacy. They're afraid of rejection. That awkward moment when they make a move and the woman suddenly pulls away, the vibe changes, and everything feels uncomfortable. But here's something important most people never talk about. There's a way to invite intimacy without sounding needy, without pressure, and without putting yourself in a position to be rejected. It's not manipulation or force. It's simply understanding how women emotionally decide when they feel ready and who they feel ready with. Here's the part almost no one explains. Women don't usually reject intimacy itself. They reject the feelings surrounding it. If the emotional experience feels off, the answer becomes no. But when the moment feels right emotionally, the answer often comes naturally. Many men get rejected because they make the same mistakes. They ask too directly, move too quickly, bring nervous energy, or try to push things forward before any emotional tension has developed. The truth is that intimacy decisions are rarely logical. They are emotional. When a woman feels safe, understood, desired but not pressured, and emotionally connected, the door begins to open. Another thing many men misunderstand is how attraction works. For most men, attraction is immediate and visual. You see someone attractive, and the reaction is instant. For many women, attraction develops in layers. It grows through context, emotions, comfort, and anticipation. That's why someone she felt neutral about at first can become very attractive weeks later. It's not a game. It's simply how emotional attraction builds over time. Once you understand that desire grows through emotional experiences, your entire approach changes. Instead of rushing or pushing, you focus on creating the right environment where attraction can naturally grow. The first principle is simple but powerful. Never ask directly. Direct requests create pressure, and pressure leads to resistance. Instead of asking for intimacy, you create an emotional invitation. When the moment feels natural and comfortable, she feels like the decision is hers. And when people feel ownership of a decision, they rarely reject it. Think about the last time someone tried to aggressively sell you something. The moment you felt pressured, your instinct was to pull back, even if you were interested before. The same psychology applies here. Directly asking something like, "Do you want to come back to my place?" turns the moment into a transaction. It forces her into a logical decision where doubts appear. But emotional invitations work differently. They focus on creating a feeling instead of asking a question, and feelings are far less likely to trigger resistance. Women tend to say yes when three emotional elements are present: safety, trust, and anticipation. If one of these is missing, hesitation appears. The good news is that these feelings can be created naturally during an interaction. Safety doesn't mean knowing someone for years. It simply means she feels you won't judge her, pressure her, or make her regret the moment. Calm, steady energy creates that feeling. Trust develops when your actions match your words, especially when you respect boundaries without making them awkward. Anticipation is the tension that builds excitement. It comes from patience, suggestion, and allowing space between what's happening now and what might happen next. Most men focus entirely on trying to be impressive or funny, but they forget these emotional switches must turn on first before attraction turns into intimacy. Another powerful dynamic is something often called the soft withdrawal effect. Instead of constantly leaning in and escalating, you occasionally lean back slightly. Not coldly, just enough to show you're comfortable without pushing the moment forward. This removes pressure instantly and creates space. And surprisingly, when the pressure disappears, she often becomes more aware of her own interest and moves closer herself. Imagine you're sitting with someone and the chemistry is clear. Many men would immediately try to escalate physically, but sometimes that sudden push makes her step back, not because she isn't interested, but because it feels rushed. Now imagine the opposite. Instead of moving closer, you relax slightly, pause, and allow a little space. Suddenly, the pressure is gone and she becomes curious. She might lean closer or initiate contact herself. That's the power of letting the energy flow naturally. It's not about playing games, it's about being comfortable enough with the moment that you don't feel the need to force it. Another subtle but powerful approach is planting emotional ideas through conversation. Instead of asking for intimacy, you express observations about the connection itself. Simple statements like appreciating the energy between you or how natural the interaction feels create emotional awareness. They don't push for anything, but they highlight the connection that already exists. People respond far more strongly to feelings than to instructions. When the emotional atmosphere feels right, intimacy often becomes something she becomes curious about on her own, rather than something you requested. And that shift in perspective changes everything. When you say things like this, you're not putting new ideas into her mind. You're helping her notice feelings she's already experiencing but hasn't expressed yet. For example, when you say something like, "I really like the energy between us," you're simply giving words to a feeling that may already be there. When she hears it, she often realizes, yes, that's exactly how this feels. That shared recognition creates alignment, and alignment naturally strengthens connection. There's also a psychological principle known as priming. When certain words or ideas are introduced into a conversation, they start shaping how the other person interprets the moment. So when you casually mention words like connection, comfort, closeness, or natural energy, those ideas begin to frame how she experiences the interaction. This isn't manipulation. It's simply helping bring awareness to a feeling that already exists. And that awareness is often what turns an ordinary conversation into something more meaningful. Now here's a part many men get wrong. If you want real connection to develop, she has to feel safe being in her softer emotional state. For many women, intimacy is closely connected to feelings like warmth, trust, openness, and vulnerability. Those emotions can appear if a man feels tense, overly aggressive, or overly focused on pushing things forward. What matters most is calm presence. This calm presence is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean being silent or emotionless. It simply means being comfortable in the moment without constantly seeking approval or worrying about the outcome. There's a big difference between someone who keeps asking, "Is this okay? Do you like this?" and someone who's relaxed enough to let the interaction flow naturally. People are very sensitive to energy. Nervousness, pressure, or desperation are easy to feel even when they aren't spoken. Those signals make someone shift into a more guarded mindset. But when someone stays calm, grounded, and unhurried, the atmosphere changes. The interaction feels safer and more relaxed, which is where genuine attraction often grows. Another important shift is in how you ask questions. Instead of asking for a yes or no answer, focus on feelings. A yes or no question creates pressure because it forces a decision. But a feeling-based question invites honesty and comfort. For example, instead of asking something direct, you might simply check in with how the moment feels for her. When someone feels they have control over the pace of the interaction, they naturally feel safer. And when people feel safe, they're more open to moving closer emotionally. There's also a powerful dynamic called mirroring. When someone shows interest or warmth, responding with the same level of energy creates a sense of harmony. Too little response can feel dismissive, while too much can feel overwhelming. Matching the energy creates balance. Humans naturally connect through mirroring. It's something we learn from early childhood. When someone smiles and the other person smiles back, it builds a sense of being understood. The same principle works in adult interactions. When interest is reflected naturally, it creates a rhythm where both people feel in sync. For example, if she leans closer, you lean slightly closer. If she maintains eye contact, you do the same. If she laughs and moves toward you, you respond with similar energy. This creates a natural flow where connection grows without feeling forced. Finally, one of the most effective things you can do is simply acknowledge the moment itself. Instead of turning it into a request, notice the experience you're both sharing. Saying something simple about how comfortable or natural the moment feels shifts attention away from pressure and toward the shared experience. People tend to follow emotions more easily than requests. When the focus becomes the feeling of the moment rather than a decision that needs to be made, everything feels more genuine and relaxed. It turns the interaction into something both people are experiencing together rather than something one person is asking for.
And that shared experience is what real connection is built on. If this gave you a new perspective or helped you understand these dynamics a little better, make sure to support Lauren Ponce Daily by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. There's much more hidden psychology and real-world insight waiting for you in the other videos here. Once you start understanding these ideas, the way you approach relationships and conversations will never feel the same again. Thanks for watching.